President Trump is trying to use right now an 18th century law to deport Venezuelan gang members. The White House recently authorized the use of the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 against the Venezuelan gang, the Tren de Aragua. And a judge has since then put a pause on this and trying to stop the deportations from taking place. But will that hold? We'll wait and see. But will this law even actually help in the process of deporting these criminal members? Well, here to discuss this topic is Todd Bensman. He's a senior national security fellow at the Center for Immigration Studies. He's also an award-winning journalist, a counterterrorism expert, and an author. Todd, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always great to have you.
Good to be here. Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about this Alien Enemies Act that virtually none of us have ever heard of. Certainly, I don't know of anybody that was alive when it came into act. Tell us more about this. How does it aid in this particular scenario?
Well, leave it to Trump to try something completely out of the box, at least in modern times. The Alien Enemies Act has not been used more than 3 times since the 17th, 18th century. The last time I think it was used was during World War II to round up Italian, German, and Japanese people in the United States and put them in internment camps. The idea behind it is that, a president has the authority to deport or, detain people who are thought to owe their allegiance to a country other than the United States, that have not pledged their allegiance to our country. And originally it was, put in motion back during a time of war between the monarchs, the French and English and us. And the idea was, we need to round up these French people. And so it goes way back. And the modern day use of it really just helps the president cut through judicial, due process claims for Tren de Aragua guys. These are terrorists and murderers and extortionists and rapists and all the rest. That's what they do for a living. But if you try to deport them, they have due process. They can tie it up and gum everything up and for years on end. But if you use the Alien Enemies Act, you don't have to wait through all of that. You can just round them up and put them on a plane and get rid of them. So that's the gambit. Wow. That's what he's trying to do. There's all sorts of litigation. Why the ACLU and others are so interested in protecting Tren de Aragua terrorists, is up for grabs. Why they would want to do that. Maybe it's this idea that it's a slippery slope. Today, Tren de Aragua, tomorrow you're Gardner. I think maybe that has something to do with it. But anyway, that's kind of where we are. They shipped off several hundred to El Salvador, which has agreed to take criminal aliens from all over the world that we decide to send to them. Very nice of them to do that, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. The president is calling this Tren de Aragua group a hybrid criminal state. I think that's personally a good tag to put on them. But as you mentioned, these really are just some horrible people who have committed some heinous crimes. Do we know exactly how many members of this specific gang have been apprehended or deported?
Just in general across the country, many, many hundreds have been put in detention, and many of them have been deported. Or getting ready to be deported. And this particular plane, I think, had about 300 on it, but not all of them were enemy alien act people. Some of them just went through the regular process. They call it Title VIII, removal proceeding, and that those are legit. They had them all mixed in together. But TDA is a designated terrorist organization now. You can call them terrorists. They moved in over the border from mainly Venezuela over the course of 4 years and set up shop in 17 different states at least that we know of, where they've terrorized communities, committed murders, rapes, extortion, took over apartment buildings in half a dozen cities, not just Aurora, Colorado, by the way. They need to be uprooted and thrown out of the country. It's that simple.
Yep, and that process is underway. Now, you mentioned the ACLU, and of course, we have this judge who has blocked this law, and he's saying because the government is so quickly deporting these supposed gang members. Well, I hear that, and I'm kind of thinking like, well, that's the idea. We want, as you just said, to get rid of these thugs. What do you think the judge is really trying to accomplish with this action, trying to put a pause on it all? What's behind it?
Well, there may very well be, legitimate legal questions that he wants to study or needs to, suss out about whether the Alien Enemies Act is the appropriate way to use it on these guys, because they're immigrants who are in different states of processes already. So I think the question is, can you use that while you're in an asylum proceeding, or if you are appealing a decline in benefits of some sort, or that you're here on a humanitarian parole authorization for 2 years, and the government already gave you that. So now why is the government can they take it away? So there are some legal questions I think that they want to answer. I'm not a lawyer on that, but the Trump administration believes that judge is politically biased and a leftist, and they're trying to get that judge removed right now from the case. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, if the things that you bring up are legitimate legal questions, that's one thing. But if it is a political action that's being taken by the judge, that's an entirely different matter altogether, and it's shameful that we even have to think this way, but there's already been so much of that that has taken place. It certainly raises questions.
I mean, it wouldn't be a terrible thing if this case and others that are sort of out of the box thinking got to the Supreme Court and we got a ruling on it.
Right.
Birthright citizenship. I mean, there's a lot of these sort of things that need to be settled at the highest level, the highest court in the land, and they could very well, break in Trump's direction, and then the whole matter's settled, and it's early enough in the administration that he then has 3 years to use it.
Yeah, great point. All right, but let's just suppose, playing devil's advocate, that this ruling somehow holds. Both the president, the administration, and the vast majority of Americans don't want murderers and rapists and thugs, violent criminals, to remain in the United States. So should this ruling somehow hold, what do you think the Trump administration does at that point? How can they, or how will they continue to attempt these deportations?
Well, every case is different. So, in a case where somebody has a criminal conviction and they've served their time, the law says you can pick them up and fly them home, deport them out of the country. But if they haven't been convicted, they've just been charged and they're in a proceeding, you're innocent until presumed guilty. Until found guilty. But you're locked in some kind of a immigration process where you're appealing a ruling and the judge hasn't quite decided yet. They may have to just detain that person during the course of the hearings until the adjudication is carried out, meted out, and then pick them up. And so it's not, but that's why they use the Alien Enemies Act, is because that one allows you to just cast aside all of those kinds of things. The argument goes anyway, and pick them up and no matter what process they're in, and ship them home. And I think a lot of
Because
us,
the process, go ahead, finish.
well, I mean, a lot of us are, we want to see, TDA terrorists deported. But, we also want to see rule of law upheld. We are a nation of laws. And, if we don't want to just cut through things, wrongly, I guess, if that's a good way to say that, so, I mean, that's why
Yeah.
the courts are there. But, if it's TDA today, but tomorrow it's just like some housekeeper or something is the argument, for doing what for challenging, I think.
Yeah, and that's you can always see that. But this is clearly some violent criminals that we're dealing with here. We're not talking about a house cleaner by any stretch here. But you brought this up with the ACLU and what they say. I mean, they're standing in behalf of these gang members, and one of their arguments is that they're not a recognized state, and yet Trump is responding saying this is a hybrid state, a hybrid terrorist state. And you admitted you're not a lawyer, but do you have an opinion about where this particular argument goes one way or the other?
Well, not really. I mean, my feeling is that the foreign terrorist organization designation might be the next go-to for them, because if we can determine and rule that they are in fact TDA, that makes them a foreign terrorist, and they're in the country illegally. They should be able to just pick them up. They don't have a right, in a case like that, to be free on the streets. We should be able to pick them up and either charge them with terrorism or deport them as terrorists. You don't have, if you're a member of a designated terrorist organization, my belief is that you don't have a right to be here. So they could go with that too. If you're ISIS,
great point,
or Osama bin Laden and you're running around our country, we should be able to pick you up just on the basis that your group is a foreign terrorist organization and ship you out right away.
Yeah, great point. I understand that you recently returned from a visit to the southern border. I've been there many, many times. In fact, on every sector all across our southern border. Nice. Do you have, from your experience, do you have any insights that you can provide from your trip?
Sure. I went to the Juarez, El Paso area. That's the El Paso sector on the U.S. side. And I've been going down there for 4 years now. Every time I've ever gone there, it was just absolute chaos, manic upheaval of thousands of immigrants just pouring in over the wire and fighting to get in, and battles with Texas DPS, et cetera. This time it was all quiet on the southern front. They might get 30 to 60 a day coming through, trying to run through that sector that they catch, and all 30 to 60 of them are detained and deported immediately. Nobody is being released, and that's why they stop coming, because nobody wants to spend a whole bunch of money on smuggling fees to end up deported and detained. That's not the way it's that they want their money to be used. So the result is that the numbers are really, really down to historic numbers. I interviewed a lot of immigrants on the Mexican side in Juarez, and they are keenly aware that if they try, there are two fates that might await them. One is that, sorry, I got a dog. One is that the Americans will detain and deport you to your home country, all the way to your home country, unless you're a Mexican citizen, in which case they'll just put you over the border. Or they'll refer you to prosecution for illegal entry, or multiple illegal entries. And the people on the Juarez side were extremely aware that their money was not going to pay off, or that they could end up in federal prison. We are putting people in federal prison right now for this. So it's an incredibly potent disincentive. They don't want to come.
Absolutely.
One last thing, if I have a second, is the smugglers.
That's about all you have.
Okay, thank you.
Todd Bensman, Senior National Security Fellow at the Center for Immigration Studies, thank you so much. Fantastic conversation. I appreciate your insight so much.